The sun rises over Davao City as fishing boats return with their night's catch, silhouetted against the amber sky. 3,000 miles away, the sun sets behind Dubai's Burj Khalifa, casting long shadows across a city built on dreams and desperation. In a cramped studio apartment in Karama, Joanna Mae Ramirez adjusts her laptop screen, waiting for Marco's familiar face to appear through the pixelated connection that bridges two worlds. At 27, Joanna embodies the modern Filipino overseas worker, educated, determined, and carrying the weight of an entire family's hopes on her shoulders. Her massage therapy certification hangs beside sketches covering every wall, surface floor plans for their dream wellness center, hand-drawn layouts showing treatment rooms, meditation gardens designed to heal both body and spirit. In the corner, a stack of Marco's letters sits bound with faded yellow ribbon, each envelope worn thin from reading during sleepless nights. The video call connects with its usual electronic chirp. Marco appears on screen, still wearing his construction helmet from the job site. Behind him, the skeletal frame of a half-built shopping mall rises against the Philippine sky. Their conversation follows its practiced rhythm: her day at the Atlantis Hotel spa, his progress on the construction site, careful calculations of remittances and savings. Every peso sent home brings them closer to their shared vision of independence. Marco's weathered hands tell the story of sacrifice. At 28, he already carries the permanent stoop of a man who builds other people's dreams while deferring his own. When he mentions selling his motorcycle to contribute to their business fund, Joanna's heart contracts. That motorcycle represented his only freedom, his escape from the crushing weight of responsibility. The apartment around her reflects 2 years of careful living, every expense calculated, every comfort sacrificed. Her white spa uniform hangs freshly laundered on a makeshift line strung between walls. The refrigerator contains exactly enough food for one person eating for survival, not pleasure. This is the mathematics of migrant labor, love measured in transferred funds, dreams deferred for practical progress. The next morning brings the knock that will reshape everything. Through her peephole, Joanna sees a woman who clearly doesn't belong in this working-class building. Sarah Al-Mansouri carries herself with the unconscious authority of someone who has never questioned whether doors will open for her. Her navy suit is immaculate despite Dubai's morning heat. Her makeup flawless, every detail screaming expensive taste and unlimited resources. Inside Joanna's tiny apartment, Sarah seems to absorb all available space. Her eyes sweep the sketches, the worn furniture, the careful way Joanna has tried to transform this cell into something resembling home. There's no judgment in her assessment, just the calculating gaze of someone evaluating potential assets. The proposition unfolds with seductive simplicity. One client, female, royal family connections, daily therapeutic massage in a private estate. Triple her current salary for 6 months of exclusive service. Full accommodation, meals, everything provided except the freedom to leave when convenient. Something in Sarah's presentation feels rehearsed, polished to remove any rough edges that might cause hesitation. The vague references to discretion and confidentiality slide past like silk over skin, beautiful, smooth, and potentially binding. When Joanna presses for specifics, Sarah's responses dance around concrete details while emphasizing the financial transformation this opportunity represents. That afternoon at their usual cafe in Satwa, Rosa provides the counterpoint to Sarah's glossy sales pitch. 5 years in Dubai have taught Rosa to read the spaces between words, to recognize when generous offers carry hidden costs. Her warnings come wrapped in whispered stories: girls who took palace contracts and vanished from social circles, families receiving brief messages about early departures followed by complete silence. Rosa's concern feels genuine, born from survival instincts honed by years navigating Dubai's complex hierarchies. But her warnings compete with the mathematical reality facing Joanna: another year and a half of separation from Marco, watching him sacrifice his own comfort to fund their shared dream. The palace contract represents acceleration, a way to compress their timeline from years to months. Alone that night, Joanna spreads Marco's letters across her bed like tarot cards, revealing possible futures. His handwriting chronicles their relationship's evolution from careful courtship to the hurried scrawl of exhaustion. The latest letter mentions double shifts, overtime pay, small sacrifices accumulating toward their larger goal. Each envelope represents another week of separation, another delay in building the life they've planned with obsessive detail. The business plan glows on her laptop screen, their wellness center mapped out with architectural precision. Treatment rooms designed for healing, meditation spaces for peace, reception areas welcoming clients into their vision of therapeutic sanctuary. Every element planned through countless video calls, every expense calculated and recalculated. The palace contract would fund immediate implementation rather than prolonged saving. Sarah's follow-up call carries a new element: professional urgency masked as exclusive opportunity. The client specifically requested Filipino care, drawn by their reputation for gentleness and dedication. The compliment feels both flattering and somehow reducing, as if her entire cultural identity could be summarized in service terms. Yet the financial reality remains undeniable: 6 months of palace work equals 18 months of hotel employment. When Joanna accepts, Sarah's tone shifts subtly from sales pitch to operational briefing. Instructions arrive with military precision: minimal personal items, everything else provided, communication restrictions for security protocols. The casual mention of limited outside contact slides past like an afterthought, buried beneath logistical details and pickup arrangements. The final video call with Marco carries weight neither of them fully recognizes. They discuss timelines and money transfers, practical arrangements for her temporary absence. His face fills her screen, weathered but hopeful, trusting in their shared vision of eventual reunion and success. When the connection ends, Joanna stares at the blank screen for long minutes, already missing the life she's about to temporarily abandon. The Mercedes arrives precisely at 9 a.m., its black surface reflecting Dubai's skyline like dark mirrors. As they drive toward the Emirates' exclusive districts, Joanna watches her apartment building disappear behind tinted windows. The city transforms around them, from working-class neighborhoods to manicured estates, from practical architecture to extravagant displays of wealth. Through the car window, she catches glimpses of Al-Barari's gated entrance, towering palms, pristine gardens, security checkpoints that suggest this destination exists in a different reality from her cramped apartment. The golden opportunity she's embraced begins revealing its true nature: a world where normal rules don't apply, where beautiful cages await those desperate enough to call them paradise. The Al-Barari estate unfolds like a fever dream of architectural excess. Joanna's modest quarters, a converted servant's room with a narrow window, overlook gardens that require armies of gardeners to maintain their impossible perfection. Marble fountains cascade into infinity pools, while peacocks strut across manicured lawns that stretch toward artificial lakes. The contrast feels deliberate, a reminder of her place in this carefully constructed hierarchy. Her patient occupies the palace's eastern wing, where medical equipment hums quietly among priceless Persian rugs and gold-leafed furniture. Fatima Al-Qasimi, the Sheikh's first wife, lies propped against silk pillows in a hospital bed that costs more than most people's cars. At 63, bone cancer and partial paralysis have reduced her to a shadow, though her eyes retain the sharp intelligence of someone who has observed power's machinations for decades. Their first session establishes a routine that will define Joanna's new existence. Fatima rarely speaks beyond basic acknowledgments, her responses limited to gentle nods or whispered thanks in Arabic. Yet something passes between them during those therapeutic hours, an understanding born from shared recognition of vulnerability. Joanna's trained hands work through atrophied muscles, while Fatima's eyes follow her movements with a mixture of gratitude and something else. Warning, perhaps, or pity. The palace operates on invisible protocols that Joanna slowly deciphers. Filipino staff move through corridors like ghosts, their presence essential but unacknowledged. They've learned the art of functional invisibility, completing tasks while remaining psychologically absent from their employer's awareness. During brief encounters in service hallways, they offer Joanna cautious smiles but avoid sustained conversation. Even solidarity carries risks in this environment. 3 weeks into her contract, the Sheikh makes his entrance. Tariq bin Nasser Al-Qasimi appears in Fatima's treatment room like a force of nature, tall, impeccably groomed, radiating the unconscious authority of someone born into absolute power. At 45, He carries himself with the easy confidence of a man who has never encountered meaningful resistance. His English flows with Oxford-educated precision, switching effortlessly to Arabic when addressing staff, then to accented Tagalog that surprises Joanna with its fluency. His initial interest seems genuinely concerned, asking detailed questions about his wife's condition and treatment progress. Joanna responds professionally, explaining therapeutic techniques while maintaining appropriate boundaries. Yet something in his attention feels disproportionate, his focus lingering on her hands as she demonstrates pressure points, his questions extending beyond medical necessity into personal territory. The gifts begin appearing without ceremony. A bottle of French perfume on her nightstand, gold bracelets tucked into her uniform pocket, expensive chocolates delivered with her meals. No accompanying notes, no direct acknowledgement, just luxurious tokens that accumulate like evidence of growing interest. When Joanna mentions the gifts to Sarah during a brief check-in call, the response comes wrapped in practiced reassurance. Wealthy clients often show appreciation for exceptional service. Conversations with the Sheikh evolve from brief clinical updates to extended discussions that stretch long after therapy sessions end. He demonstrates impressive knowledge of Filipino culture, discussing Mindanao's history with academic precision while praising the loyalty and work ethic that make Filipino caregivers so valued. His compliments feel both genuine and somehow reductive, as if her entire identity could be summarized through cultural stereotypes. During one afternoon session, as Joanna works through Fatima's physical therapy routine, the Sheikh observes from an ornate chair positioned strategically in her line of sight. His commentary shifts between medical interest and personal observation, noting how her gentle approach seems to bring his wife more peace than previous caregivers achieved. The praise carries undertones that make Joanna's skin prickle with unease. The turning point arrives in the palace's private garden, a terraced paradise overlooking artificial waterfalls. Following Fatima's evening session, the Sheikh suggests they discuss her progress in more comfortable surroundings. The setting feels deliberately chosen, intimate yet open, romantic yet professional enough to maintain plausible deniability. His proposal emerges with the casual confidence of someone accustomed to having his desires fulfilled. Second wife. Traditional arrangement. Marco could be brought to Dubai, given land, comfortable life assured for everyone. The offer unfolds like a business presentation, complete with financial projections and lifestyle guarantees. His tone suggests this represents generosity rather than proposition, opportunity rather than exploitation. Joanna's refusal comes wrapped in respectful firmness. She explains her commitment to Marco, their shared business plans, her intention to return home and build the life they've carefully designed. Her words carry genuine appreciation for his offer while making her position absolutely clear: she belongs to someone else, somewhere else. For just a moment, the Sheikh's polished facade cracks. His expression shifts to something colder, more calculating, before smoothing back into practiced charm. He acknowledges her loyalty with apparent respect, suggesting perhaps time might change her perspective. The conversation ends cordially, but the atmospheric pressure in the garden seems to have shifted imperceptibly. The palace's dynamic transforms in subtle ways that take days to fully register. Staff interactions become more formal, their brief smiles replaced by careful neutrality. Fatima's eyes carry new weight during sessions, her occasional touches feeling more like comfort than gratitude. Even the peacocks seem more aggressive, their calls harsh and territorial rather than merely decorative. Security personnel who previously nodded politely now maintain professional distance that feels vaguely menacing. Their presence becomes more noticeable, though ostensibly unchanged. The same guards patrol the same routes at the same times, yet something in their bearing suggests heightened awareness of Joanna's movements and interactions. During one particularly difficult session, as Joanna works to alleviate Fatima's chronic pain, the older woman's fingers close around her wrist with surprising strength. Their eyes meet in the mirror reflecting the treatment room, and Fatima's expression carries unmistakable urgency. No words pass between them, but understanding flows through that desperate grip, a warning transmitted through touch between women who recognize shared vulnerability. The Sheikh's subsequent visits take on new characteristics. His questions probe deeper into Joanna's background, her family situation, her specific timeline for returning to the Philippines. He expresses fascination with her dedication to someone so far away, wondering aloud whether such loyalty might be misplaced, whether opportunities closer at hand might offer greater fulfillment. Each conversation feels like a chess game where Joanna doesn't fully understand the rules. His moves seem casual, almost accidental, yet accumulate into patterns of increasing pressure. Compliments become more personal, proximity more deliberate, gifts more expensive and intimate. The spider's web Sarah Al-Mansouri had woven with financial incentives now reveals its true architect, someone with infinite patience and absolute confidence in eventual success. As her first month in the palace draws to a close, Joanna begins recognizing the architecture of her situation. The golden cage Rosa had warned about reveals its true dimensions, not prison bars but silk threads, each one beautiful and barely noticeable until movement becomes impossible. The patient she came to heal watches with knowing sadness while the predator circles with practiced patience, waiting for the perfect moment to complete his collection. The phone vanishes from Joanna's room on a Tuesday morning, disappearing as silently as the gifts once appeared. When she inquires, Hassan, the head of household staff, explains with apologetic efficiency that security protocols require all communication devices during certain periods. The explanation sounds rehearsed, his eyes avoiding direct contact as he promises its return once current circumstances resolve. Her contract, originally set to expire in 5 months, receives its first revision through Sarah's crisp voice over the palace's landline. The client requires extended care, the original timeline proving insufficient for proper treatment. Legal documentation will follow, salary adjustments will reflect the extension, all perfectly standard for premium service arrangements. The conversation ends before Joanna can voice her growing unease about contact restrictions and changing terms. The Sheikh's behavior begins cycling between extremes that leave Joanna perpetually off balance. During Fatima's morning sessions, he might appear with coffee and pastries, discussing philosophy and art with genuine intellectual engagement. By afternoon, he transforms into someone colder, more demanding, questioning her commitment to excellence and suggesting that homesickness compromises her professional focus. These mood swings feel calculated, designed to keep her constantly guessing which version of him she'll encounter. Physical boundaries tighten with bureaucratic precision. Doors that once opened freely now require permission to access. The gardens, previously available for evening walks, become restricted areas after sunset. Security explains these measures as temporary, necessitated by visiting dignitaries and heightened protocols. Yet the restrictions never lift. The palace transforms from luxurious residence into something resembling an elegant detention facility. Her attempts to contact Rosa and other Filipino workers meet systematic obstruction. The landline requires Hassan's approval for outgoing calls, approval that becomes increasingly difficult to obtain. Messages sent through staff members disappear without reaching their intended recipients. Even casual conversations with palace employees become stilted affairs, their responses suggesting they've received instructions about interaction limits. The Sheikh's lectures about protection evolve into something more sinister. He speaks eloquently about destiny, about how some people resist their proper place in the world's natural order. His monologues weave together cultural appreciation and paternalistic concern, suggesting that her loyalty to Marco represents misguided attachment to a lesser life. These conversations feel like indoctrination sessions disguised as philosophical discussions. In the privacy of her bathroom, Joanna begins documenting her situation using lipstick as ink on tissue paper. The goodbye letter takes shape over multiple nights, each sentence crafted with the awareness that these might be her final words to Marco. She writes about love that transcends distance, about dreams that survive even when dreamers don't, about regret for choices that seemed golden but proved poisonous. The letter finds its hiding place sewn into her luggage lining, a secret testament to a relationship the Sheikh seems determined to erase. Writing these words transforms something inside Joanna from naive optimism that everything will resolve naturally to tragic understanding that powerful men rarely accept defeat gracefully. The woman who entered this palace believing in fairness and contracts begins recognizing the brutal mathematics of absolute power. Her escape plan develops through careful observation of palace routines. Guards change shifts at dawn, creating a 20-minute window when surveillance gaps might allow movement through service corridors. Kitchen staff begin their day before sunrise, their activity providing potential cover for unauthorized movement. The laundry facilities connect to delivery areas where vehicles arrive without the scrutiny focused on main entrances. The attempt comes during a pre-dawn thunderstorm that masks sound and reduces visibility. Joanna slips through service passages she's mapped during weeks of careful observation, her heart hammering as she navigates toward the delivery entrance. For precious minutes, freedom seems achievable, the gate visible through rain-streaked windows, guards distracted by weather conditions. Capture arrives with devastating efficiency. Hands grip her shoulders before she reaches the final corridor, professional restraint that leaves no marks while ensuring complete immobilization. The guard's expressions reveal no surprise, suggesting her movements were monitored throughout the attempt. They escort her back to her quarters with the same courtesy shown to welcomed guests, making the humiliation complete. The Sheikh's patience finally fractures. He arrives in her room that evening, his polished facade replaced by something rawer and infinitely more dangerous. The pretense of choice disappears as he outlines her situation with mathematical precision. Submit to his proposition, or face consequences that extend far beyond her own welfare. Marco's construction site employment, her family's business ventures, her sister's immigration applications all exist within reach of his influence. His ultimatum carries the weight of absolute certainty. Wealthy men don't make idle threats, especially when their reputation for getting what they want remains undefeated. Other Filipino workers have learned this lesson, though their stories remain whispered rather than officially recorded. The choice he offers isn't really choice at all, submission disguised as voluntary decision-making. Joanna's final refusal emerges from depths of character she didn't know she possessed. Despite isolation, despite threats, despite the crushing weight of understanding her powerlessness, she maintains the dignity that brought her this far. Her response carries quiet determination that no amount of wealth or influence can purchase what isn't freely given. The Sheikh's reaction reveals the predator beneath his cultivated exterior. His voice drops to barely above a whisper as he explains the mathematical reality of her situation. Resistance will bring suffering not just to her, but to everyone she claims to love. The desert holds many secrets, and disappearances happen even in the modern world when properly managed. His words hang in the climate-controlled air like a death sentence pronounced with aristocratic courtesy. As he leaves her room, the sound of locks engaging echoes through corridors that once seemed merely luxurious. The golden cage completes its transformation into something recognizably sinister, beautiful surfaces hiding mechanisms designed for control rather than comfort. In the gathering darkness, Joanna finally understands that some opportunities come with prices too terrible to calculate, and that recognition of the trap's existence doesn't necessarily provide means of escape. The summons arrives through Hassan at midnight, his apologetic demeanor unable to mask the finality of the Sheikh's command. The isolated wing of the palace stretches empty and echoing, its opulent corridors designed for privacy rather than witness protection. Here, among priceless artifacts and soundproof walls, conversations can occur without fear of interruption or documentation. Sheikh Tariq bin Nasser Al-Qasimi waits in his private study, the composed mask of civilized authority finally abandoned. 3 months of careful manipulation have yielded nothing but polite resistance, and the rage simmering beneath his cultured exterior now burns openly. The mathematical certainty that has guided his entire life acquisition, control, ownership has encountered its first significant failure, and the experience proves intolerable. Joanna enters carrying Marco's photograph and the small beaded bracelet her mother gave her before leaving the Philippines. These talismans represent everything the Sheikh cannot purchase or command: love freely given, loyalty earned through years of shared struggle, faith that transcends material circumstances. Her hands shake, but her spine remains straight as she faces the man who holds her life in his manicured fingers. His words emerge with the cold precision of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. The offer has expired, replaced by simple command. Her refusal to submit voluntarily forces him to take what should have been freely given. The philosophical discussions about destiny and cultural roles reveal their true purpose as intellectual justification for predatory behavior. Power, he explains with chilling calm, creates its own morality. When Joanna speaks her final refusal, her voice carries echoes of every woman who has ever chosen dignity over survival. Marco's love, their shared dreams, her mother's teachings about self-respect, these intangible forces prove stronger than the Sheikh's tangible threats. The photograph trembles in her grip as she invokes the life waiting for her beyond these gilded walls, the future she refuses to abandon even facing death. The violence comes swiftly, brutally, without the drama of cinematic confrontation. Hands accustomed to signing business deals and caressing silk prove equally capable of destruction. In her final moments, Joanna's thoughts drift home to Davo's morning markets, Marco's calloused hands building their dreams, the wellness center they sketched on countless video calls. The palace's imported marble grows cold beneath her as consciousness fades. Even the ornate surroundings seem to recoil from what has occurred. Shadows deepen in corners where priceless art witnesses unspeakable acts. The climate control system hums with mechanical indifference while security cameras record nothing, their feeds mysteriously corrupted during the crucial minutes. The Sheikh's private study, designed for contemplating beauty and power, becomes a tomb for dreams and innocence. The cleanup crew arrives with practiced efficiency, their unmarked vehicles entering through service gates monitored by complicit guards. These men operate with the clinical detachment of those who have performed similar tasks before, transforming crime scenes into mysteries with professional expertise. Within hours, evidence disappears while official documentation emerges claiming early contract termination and voluntary departure. Desert burial occurs in unmarked expanses where construction projects will never reach, where shifting sands provide natural concealment for inconvenient truths. Sarah Al-Mansouri handles official communications with the same polish she brought to recruitment, explaining to concerned parties that Joanna received a better opportunity elsewhere. The Platinum Care Service's website lists her departure as successful completion of assignment. Embassy officials, when contacted, find no irregularities in documentation. Joanna's contract termination appears voluntary, her departure properly processed through legitimate channels. The bureaucratic maze designed to protect overseas workers becomes complicit in covering their disappearance, forms and procedures serving power rather than justice. Official indifference transforms murder into administrative oversight. 6 weeks later, construction workers expanding Dubai's infrastructure discover remains partially buried near an abandoned farm development. The body shows signs of decomposition consistent with desert exposure, identification complicated by environmental factors. Only a name tag, somehow overlooked during the cover-up process, provides concrete proof of identity. Police investigation proceeds with bureaucratic thoroughness that accomplishes nothing meaningful. Interviews with palace staff yield carefully rehearsed responses about Joanna's professional departure. Security footage from relevant periods suffers from technical difficulties that prevent clear identification of events. The case file grows thick with documentation that leads nowhere, questions that receive answers revealing nothing. Meanwhile, Marco's world crumbles in slow motion. Joanna's communication silence begins as concerning anomaly, progresses through desperate worry, and culminates in devastating certainty. His calls to her phone reach voicemail boxes that never respond. Agency representatives provide increasingly vague explanations about confidentiality requirements and client privacy. The truth arrives through Facebook notification in a Filipino overseas worker support group. Someone shares a local news article about unidentified remains, speculation about missing persons, scattered details that coalesce into nightmare confirmation. Marco stares at his construction site laptop as his carefully constructed future disintegrates in real time. Desperate phone calls to embassies yield bureaucratic sympathy but no concrete assistance. Officials explain jurisdiction limitations, investigation complexities, the challenges of pursuing cases involving powerful local interests. The machinery of international relations grinds slowly while individual tragedies disappear beneath diplomatic considerations and economic partnerships. The wellness center sketches remain taped to Marco's apartment wall, their hopeful lines now serving as memorial rather than blueprint. Each detailed drawing represents conversations they shared, dreams they nurtured through months of separation. The future that died with Joanna in a palace study designed for contemplating beauty. The mathematical precision of their business plan becomes monument to love that transcended distance but couldn't survive power's absolute corruption. Sheikh Fahad's legal team moved swiftly to contain the damage. Cease and desist orders flooded social media platforms, claiming privacy violations and defamatory content. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram removed posts about Liza's case within days, citing terms of service violations. News outlets that had begun investigating received pressure from UAE diplomatic channels, while Maria Santos faced immediate deportation threats and job termination that forced her into hiding. Within 1 week, Liza's story had been systematically erased from public discourse despite overwhelming evidence of foul play. The speed and efficiency of the suppression campaign revealed the vast resources deployed to protect powerful perpetrators while silencing their victims' voices. Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs officials privately acknowledged the cover-up but remained powerless against diplomatic realities that prioritized economic relationships over individual justice. UAE labor departments dismissed family inquiries with form letters, while Human Rights Watch found their documentation efforts blocked by legal barriers and institutional non-cooperation. Embassy staff whispered among themselves about the truth they couldn't officially acknowledge, while Golden Opportunities Agency quietly had its license revoked without public explanation or accountability. The pattern of similar cases became clear to advocates who documented abuse systematically. Liza's death represented one incident among hundreds where domestic workers died under suspicious circumstances. Their cases closed quickly to avoid international attention or diplomatic complications. Legal barriers prevented independent investigations, while compensation and accountability remained impossible dreams for grieving families. But Liza's story survived in underground networks that developed organically among overseas Filipino workers. Secret support groups used encrypted messaging to share dangerous situations and early warning signs. Anonymous documentation projects preserved evidence of abuse cases that official channels ignored or suppressed. Safe house networks emerged to help domestic workers escape life-threatening situations, while underground railroad systems facilitated emergency evacuation from abusive households. Digital evidence preservation efforts ensured that testimonies survived despite official suppression attempts. International solidarity among domestic worker advocates created cross-border support systems that transcended national boundaries and diplomatic constraints. Liza's case became a powerful symbol of systemic abuse that training programs used to help workers recognize warning signs and seek help before situations became fatal. In Barangay Payatas, Carmen maintained her nightly ritual of lighting a candle beneath Liza's photograph while whispering the truth that official investigations had buried. "You did not fall, you were pushed." Roberto quietly collected evidence and testimonies from other OFW families, building an unofficial case file that documented patterns of abuse and cover-ups spanning decades. Community donations funded Miguel and Maria's education, ensuring that Liza's sacrifice would not be entirely wasted. Her name circulated through OFW safety networks as a cautionary tale, while annual memorial services in Payatas drew hundreds of families who had lost loved ones to similar circumstances. A small shrine in the family home displayed her nursing school graduation photos alongside flowers and prayer candles that never went out. The community grocery store that opened in Liza's memory became an informal headquarters for families seeking information about missing or deceased overseas workers. Young women preparing for foreign employment received warnings and safety training that included Liza's story as a central example of how quickly situations could turn deadly. Her truth survived in whispered warnings passed between domestic workers, in encrypted messages shared through secret networks, and in the prayers of mothers who lit candles each night for daughters working in foreign palaces where power ruled absolutely and justice remained an impossible dream. Though official records claim she died by accident, those who knew better preserved the real story. Liza Manlapig was murdered for refusing to be silenced, and her death would not be forgotten by those who understood that speaking truth to power sometimes demands the ultimate sacrifice. Statistics scroll across the screen revealing the scope of migrant worker disappearances, diplomatic immunity abuse, and systemic failures that prioritize economic relationships over human rights. The numbers transform individual tragedy into broader indictment of systems designed to protect wealth while sacrificing those who create it through their labor and sacrifice. Some dreams survive even when dreamers don't, their power residing not in individual achievement but in collective memory that refuses to let injustice disappear into bureaucratic silence. Joanna's Wellness Center stands as testament to love that transcends death and vision that outlasts those who conceive it, healing continuing through hands trained in her techniques and hearts guided by her example.